All right, 92.9 and 96.9 EHM Morning Show with Anthony. Super excited to have on the line with us our special guest, Miss Amy Helm. Amy, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you.
We were just talking briefly before we got on the air here, and you were telling me that you got a new dog.
Yes, I have a brand new puppy.
First dog ever in your whole life.
First dog ever.
That's surprising from one aspect, but also you're a musician and you travel around a lot, so I kind of get it from that end.
I do, but I just, I have two little boys and they've been begging me for a puppy, so I went ahead and I got the puppy and I've got doggy daycare set up for when I'm traveling, so I'm beginning the adventure.
Nice, nice. And how old and what kind of puppy?
He is 9 weeks old and his name is Rascal. And he's a small dog. He's a half Bichon, half Shih Tzu, and he's like a little fluff ball. He looks like a teddy bear has come to life. It's pretty darn cute.
And you're up in Woodstock, right? That's where you're living?
I am. Yeah.
So that's like prime dog territory, running inside, outside.
It is. It's great. I got to build a fence. I kind of bought him before I had a fence in place, but one day at a time, as they say.
It's so funny with dogs, though, because you really don't think about it that much.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the same is for kids. I don't know if any of us are really qualified for kids before we decide to have kids, but but with the dog, you get the dog and you're like, oh, I can't have nice couches anymore, or you just
I'm kind of I'm in a bit of a state of shock with all that right now.
Well, you'll have an adjustment period. The kids are happy. That's what matters.
Yeah, that's what matters for sure.
Yeah. You got this date coming up here on the East End at Guildhall with G.E. Smith and Tommy Emmanuel. It's the G.E. Portrait Series. If I wasn't friends with G.E. Smith, I would definitely be listed as a stalker of his because I'm such a huge fan.
Yeah, he's incredible.
He's phenomenal. Do you guys have I don't even know. Do you guys have a relationship?
We don't. I mean, I'm a fan. I've gotten to shake his hand a couple of times here and there, but I've never had the opportunity to play with him. And I'm really, really looking forward to it. I can't wait. And it's just going to be vocals and guitar, which will be super interesting and that's always kind of exciting to take a song and redesign it for just guitar and voice. I've rarely done that. So, and he's such an extraordinary player. I think it'll be really, really cool.
Yeah, and I love these shows. Like there's an element. We were just there at Guildhall. He did this with Dawes, and to be in the presence of it, it's such a great thing where you guys are always all so professional. And you know what's going to happen going into the night. But when you go into a show like this, like nothing bad is going to happen, but you kind of have an idea, but there's also that freedom and risk and thrill of like, we don't really know where this night's going to go for the most part.
That's very cool. Yeah, they sound like interesting shows. I'm sure that, sometimes, when there's that much openness and spontaneity, and also when it's that stripped down, I think it lends itself to a different kind of creativity starts to arise. And I think I could imagine them being really interesting shows. I'm really excited to hear Tommy Emmanuel too.
Yeah, I know. And that's his other thing. Like sometimes he'll stick two artists together and you're like, I wonder what that's going to be like.
Yeah. That's cool. I hope I get to sing with him. That is so cool.
Yeah. Amy Helm is with us. So the big thing that we've been following here lately, and I would be crazy not to ask you about this, is this Woodstock Festival drama that's been happening.
I know. It's such a drama.
It has been crazy. We have been following every single step. Every time Michael Lang sneezed, like we were on top of it. But you were booked for the festival. I'm curious to get your perspective of it.
Well, I just, I know Michael and I know Michael's family. I know his kids. His kids actually babysit for my kids sometimes. And I went to school with his older daughters. And, it's just too bad to see something like that happen. And I hate to see it go down like that. But I think that also, this stuff happens. This industry is a nutty one and it's inconsistent and it's unpredictable. And I don't know. I hope that it can lead to better stuff down the road, and hopefully he'll have another opportunity to do what he was envisioning.
Yeah.
It's always a bummer to see something fall apart, because obviously if everybody was beginning, the whole intention of the thing was begun to create a great 3 days of music. And so I'm sorry to see that kind of come undone and to have it be so public. But I don't know. I'm sure he'll land on his feet, and I'm sure it will all, pass quickly.
Yeah, I was curious, and see, I'm probably on the front lines this maybe a little bit more than you are, because we were talking about it the whole way, and right around the time that the first investors pulled out and it got canceled, everybody got so negative on it, like, oh, it's over, forget it. And we were kind of like, well, it's not over. They still have the artists and they still have this, and let's see what happens. And, they still had the venue, they still had Watkins Glen at that time. But I was so surprised to see all the negativity. And I was like, from the beginning, I was like, that brand Woodstock and what it stands for, it's almost horrible to call it a brand. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it is. But it is. Sure. Yeah.
I was
There's a lot of T-shirts around here that it's definitely, it's the brand with the bird and the 3 days of peace. I see it a lot.
Yeah. But I was surprised to see the amount of negativity and people just kind of writing it off like, oh, this is bad idea, this is terrible, because I didn't see that. I saw it as respect for those first 3 days in '69.
I I'll be honest with you, I don't go on Facebook. I don't even know how to sign into my Facebook account.
Good move, Amy. Good move.
I do Instagram a little bit here and there because I keep up with some friends, and I get to watch the people at, musicians I admire, and I kind of keep up with that a little bit, but I don't read a lot of the stuff. I live in a little bit of a bubble with that stuff, and I've done it on purpose. So I haven't seen a lot of negativity and a lot of backlash from the thing, which is good, because people like the sound of their own voice anyway. And once you start typing it onto a screen and you're going out to the world, it gets even more enticing. I think people get carried away with stuff pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, because I don't know Michael Lang from Adam. I don't know him like you know him, but I was rooting for him the whole way, because I felt that cultural event deserved the proper respect of a 50-year remembrance.
Yeah. So I agree. Well, maybe they'll come around. Maybe they'll celebrate the 60th with a bang.
Yeah. Well, now,
or the 51st. I don't know.
But yeah, right. I mean, who cares? 51. That could be a thing. But now I know there's like booking agents and everything like that, but were you in contact with them throughout the whole thing, and like, oh, are we still doing it? Were they in communication with you guys?
No, I didn't give it much, I didn't track it so closely. I just figured it's either going to shake out or it's going to not shake out. And I kind of assumed that it was going to go this way, because it's a big event to get on track. I run the barn, I run a venue, and I started a festival last year on a very small scale, a 1,200 person festival. So I have a little bit of a understanding of what a huge undertaking it would be to rise up from such a public cancellation, a false cancellation in Billboard. You can't come back from that so easily. So yeah, I assumed it might not come through, but I just didn't track it. I just figured they'd let me know one way or the other.
I knew it would be hard for artists because touring schedules can be so tight sometimes when you got to get from one place to the next. But were you one of the acts that was going to go down to Maryland if you could?
I don't think so. I really don't know. But that's because I don't care about it. Honestly, if I get to my sound check on time, it's a miracle. Like if I packed the lunch and I got them to camp and I make it to sound check, it's just, I just can't even believe it. I give myself 1,000 gold stars. So I don't know what I was scheduled for, but I like Michael, and I really can speak very highly of his kids. He's got incredible kids that are kind and loving and great babysitters, and all things change, and it'll change back, and and something else cool will come out of it. I have no doubt.
Yeah. Well, it feels like you are the pride of Woodstock right now because of the Ramble and the barn and running that whole thing.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I'm doing I've got a great team, and I think we're doing a good job serving the original vision of what these concerts were meant to be, what my dad wanted them to be. And, Woodstock is a really loving community. We really are really lucky to live in such a beautiful spot with so many great players and so many great venues and different events that happen. So we all kind of hold each other up here. So it's a nice thing, and I'm really happy to be part of it here.
What was the biggest surprise for you being on that end of it, on the venue end of things?
To move into that role, you mean?
Yeah.
At the barn? Let's see. That's an interesting question.
Because it's weird, because I see I see venues around here, and talk to some of the people around here that run the venues around here, and I was surprised at how much there actually is to do just to pull off one concert.
Yeah. Well, I had, I'll say with the barn, we were I was stepping into a situation that was already well formed, in that we had an incredible staff of volunteers, some of whom had been there for, 10 years, and we had a really good infrastructure. We just had debt to battle, and we had to battle the wreckage of kind of incorrect branding and having to get the word back out about the Ramble being a venue that is, a place for musicians to go play, and that it didn't have to be the Ramble band, and trying to shake out the money and how that would work, because that's a small place. So yeah, it's been a big learning curve, but the volunteer staff that we have there, and the new staff that I have working in the management role and the day-to-day production is really, that's where all the strength comes from, really.
I saw, and I had the guys from the Ollebelle on, and I saw a piece of them talking about the Ramble, and I was watching it, and I've never been up there, but half of my audience has been up there, and they keep telling me like, "Ann, you got to go up and see a show there."
It's really special.
It looks so special. Are you surprised that more venues haven't sort of taken your blueprint, because the audience is so on top of the artist? It's so intimate.
Yeah. I've been to quite a few venues that have that small, that same small intimate setting. There are a lot, and I think there are more cropping up, because it's a very unique way to see a concert. I think people enjoy it, and hopefully the barn did inspire other venues to do that, and it would be great if we did.
Yeah. Where do you see that going in the future? Because like you said, you had to rebrand and everything like that. Do you see that just running forever? Like, are you happy with that element of things?
Oh yeah, I hope so. That would be so cool. It would be so cool if it ran forever, because, he really wanted it to be a place that was, built by a musician for musicians. That's what the place is. At the end of the day, a great place for music lovers to see a show, and really a great place for a musician to make a payday. So I try to keep that as sort of the motto and keep it in mind. And I try to keep the music varied and make sure we've got, different bands that represent different genres, and there's still some work to do with that. I'd like to widen it out a bit, but we're really just climbing back up from the trouble, the financial trouble, and sort of the natural paralysis that kind of followed after he passed away, just in terms of hanging on to the building and getting the word back out and having to rebuild it.
Yeah.
As a brand.
Let me see where you guys are at in the evolution of it. When you go to the supermarket or you're out just shopping, doing random things, do people come up to you and say, "Hey, why don't you book so-and-so?" Or "How come you haven't gotten so-and-so yet?"
Well, that's been happening in Woodstock every day, even when we were in the process of rebuilding. Woodstock's a teeny place, though. So let's see if I move out the map a little bit. Does it happen in Kingston now? Maybe like, yeah, I think maybe it does. I think in our area people know about it, and I do think that musicians are starting to know about it, which is really great.
Yeah,
I meet a lot of players here and there and touring around, and people always ask about it and want to come see the place, and drummers always want to know about it. You always get drummers want to come see the place because we've still got his kit set up, and yeah, it's like a special spot for players.
That's so cool. It's funny, as I think the last time I think we had you on on the 1 year anniversary of the passing of your dad.
I remember that. I was wondering if this was I think I remember that.
Yeah. And I was so impressed. By the way, and I'm still to this day, I still tell people that I was so impressed with you that you were able to even do that interview, because I would be crying.
Oh.
In fact, I think I was crying. I think you were consoling me, if I remember correctly.
Oh, that's nice.
But
yeah.
No, go ahead. You sound like you were going to say something.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I remember talking to you, but I don't remember feeling this. I don't remember what we talked about, but there was a lot, when he passed away, it was very public, and I had to kind of head into that. It's odd to lose a parent and then have a bit of a public profile to it. I wasn't really prepared for that.
Yeah.
But his fans loved him so much and loved his music so much, and I honestly found a lot of consolation when he passed in people remembering him and loving what his music meant to them. That helped me through it in some ways. So
it's funny. I didn't remember what we talked about either, but now that we're talking about it like this, I think this is kind of what we were talking about. You sharing it with everybody else. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
But you know what I wanted to ask you about all these years later, because things settle in and you go through, and I didn't realize how much influence you had over his final two records. Producing it.
I co-produced one of them, the Dirt Farmer record.
Yeah, and what's crazy? Like, obviously, your dad. Nobody's taking away from your dad who he was and what a legend he was and all the years he had. But I feel like, to a degree, like, and I wonder if, and maybe this is just a radio person asking about other radio people. Like, do people talk to you about that? Like what influence you had? Because those last two records and the Grammy, that was a really big part of his legacy, and I feel, and I'm not sure if that happens without you involved.
I don't think that it would have, and I think that was, and I don't say that, it's not a point of pride in terms of a career, but it is a point of pride because really where it came from is that he and I really healed our relationship, through his throat cancer and through all the trouble that he went through before he made those albums and before he got himself back on track. He and I, that was also a really rich time where he and I really healed our relationship, and he was sober and we were able to, reconnect with each other after many years of him being in and out of my life, which was, as any family that deals with the disease of drug addiction or alcoholism, that's how it works as a family disease. It creates a lot of fracture. And then he and I kind of had this beautiful opportunity to reconnect and then make those albums and build those concerts out of that. So it was really a beautiful thing to be part of it. And I think you're right. I think his and my relationship had a lot to do with those coming into being. And I'm so proud that I got to be part of it and that I got to know him in that way and relearn him and let him know me and do it all through the music. It was really, really spectacular.
Yeah. And it's like, it's funny too, because I feel like the more time I spend with your two solo records, and you go back and you listen to that stuff and it's kind of I don't know. I feel like you're going to get a lot more credit for those two albums, his last two albums, in the next 10 years than you have since they've come out.
Well, the first record, the Dirt Farmer record, that was something that he and I had been talking about for years because he wanted to make an album that mainly focused on the songs he learned as a child and stuff that his parents and grandparents, songs that his parents and grandparents taught to him. So we had always kind of imagined that he would teach the songs to me. And then, as time went by and he started to be able to sing again a little bit here and there, we got to start to put that into place, one little step at a time. And then we brought Larry Campbell in, and that was kind of just all meant to be.
Yeah. And I know it wasn't too long after, and then you had your first solo album, and he had a lot of influence on you doing that one. Is his fingerprints on This Too Shall Light at all, or is this the first record where it's kind of like?
Well, I recorded a song on This Too Shall Light that's a hymn that he taught to me. So that has his fingerprint on it. That's his arrangement of a Ralph Stanley song called Gloryland. Ouch. Leave it, honey. Oh, sorry. Hold on. This puppy.
It's okay.
Hold on. Leave it, rascal. Leave it. Leave it. Leave it. Good boy. Oh, God. Hold on a second. Interview interruptus. Maybe the cutest thing that could ever interrupt an interview in the entire world is interrupting this interview. What was I talking about? Oh, on This Too Shall Light, I did Gloryland, which was his arrangement that he taught me that song. But yes, it was really my own thing. I went out to Los Angeles. It felt much more like I was leaving the nest in some ways, because I did the first record at the barn. He played on some of it. He had passed by the time I finished it, but he knew this was something I was working on, so it felt all of that felt connected to him and to the Rambles. And then the second album felt like maybe my first step, kind of trying to step into the idea of myself as a solo singer now that I had kind of established a little bit of footwork and gotten my sea legs with it.
It's kind of crazy to talk to you about a sophomore record, because when you really look at your work with Ollebelle and the Ramble, you have like 400 albums under your belt.
Yeah.
But only
true. Yes.
only 2 solo. But I mean, how does it feel, especially because that album's out almost a year now? Do you feel like a solo artist? Are you growing comfortable in that role?
I do. I am. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm happy to say without hesitation that I do. It took me a while. It's a funny thing. But I do. I love it. I love connecting with people and getting to play shows. And I've had some incredible band members floating in and out that I use, different people when they're available, and just constantly inspired by the musicians I get to play with. And I really love doing it. I really do.
Because I mean, again, like running a music venue, there's a difference when you're in a band, to when you're a solo artist. Like, for instance, when the annoying guy from Long Island wants to do an interview, you have to do it. There is a difference between being a solo act and an artist. And here's a question that I want to ask you. I'm curious about, Amy, because I did a YouTube search on you, and I saw you perform right by wine barrels in a winery. I saw you perform in the back of a van. Mm-hmm. And as a music fan, I do enjoy seeing all these bands perform in all these weird places. But on the other hand, I was thinking, like, they really do make you guys perform in weird places nowadays. Like, I
agree.
When your dad was around, it was maybe the late night talk shows, and that it didn't really get too crazy. We're like, I feel like we're a year or two from hanging you guys off the side of a cliff on a stage, swinging it back and forth.
That's what you'll have to do to get people to buy your records.
But how do you feel? I mean, how does that feel? Like when they come to you and be like, "Hey, can we put you in the back of a van, or can we put you in a wine basement?"
Well, actually, those specific ones you're talking about, Jam in the Van and City Wineries, where we did the ones downstairs, and both those crews and the people that run those things are so sweet. And that Jam in the Van thing was fun. I actually really enjoyed that. I had a good time doing that. And the guys at City Winery, of course, are good friends, and I've played there a whole bunch at this point, and love getting to work with them. So, for those guys, we'll go into a weird place and play a couple of songs.
All right. Well, you'll be happy to know Guildhall is a beautiful theater that doesn't swing and is not in a basement. So
That's fantastic.
yeah.
I feel like I've arrived. This is like a signage. You're heading in the right direction.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to seeing you there Tuesday, August 13th. Amy Helm, a pleasure speaking with you today. Thanks so much.
Great. You too. Have a great day.
All right. We'll see you soon.
All righty. Bye-bye.